Nancy Crowther of Austin is one of 70 million covered by Medicaid, but Crowther is also someone who has told her story for decades to score wins for the Texas disability community and the attendants who care for them. This week, as the U.S. House passed the biggest budget cuts to Medicaid in history, and it now moves to the Senate, Crowther is again using her voice to tell senators what Medicaid does for her, and urging others to join her.
I've worked hard. I'm to the point where I own my own house, I have services, and to lose that would be to lose my livelihood and to be desperately placed in an assisted living or something.
Crowther is 67 and has a progressive muscular disease called spinal muscular atrophy. She's lived years beyond anyone's expectations, she says, and owes it all up to her Medicaid attendant care, which will be imperiled if the cuts become law.
It involves so many programs for young, for old, for different types of disabilities, and it's just a multi-use tool. And if you start losing pieces of that tool, that's part of your independence that you're losing. And I don't think it's felt as if that's a big deal by anybody in the upper echelon that thinks, well, you're okay, you're in a wheelchair. And Medicaid does a lot more different things than just a wheelchair. And our lawmakers don't even understand that. The sad part of this is that we already have a wounded community because a lot of medical facilities and doctors and providers are going out of business, don't want anything to do with Medicaid because they're not getting decent reimbursement rates from the Medicaid fountain. And for me personally, it would mean, devastation, of course, but the lowest thing on the totem pole would have to be an institution to go into, and that would just be the death knell.
Crowther found the power of speaking up in the 1980s. It was years before the Americans with Disabilities Act. She got involved in the movement to make public transit in Austin, Texas, accessible not only for people with disabilities, but also seniors and families with strollers, for instance. It was a victory, and she found out the power of her own voice. She's been awarded for her work ever since, and has continued speaking up across the state, sometimes telling her story to policymakers, or often being the only disability perspective present at a meeting or serving on an advisory board. Crowther was part of the push that got the last legislature to boost community attendant pay for the disabled and seniors in 2023. Last week, members of Crowther's group, Adaptive Texas, were among 300 in wheelchairs and their supporters in the U.S. Capitol. 27 of them were arrested for bringing a House committee to a halt, demanding they not touch Medicaid. This week, Crowther encourages listeners to call their Texas senators to tell their own stories and their families' and friends' stories on how important Medicaid is to them.
It really fills you up with a sense of boldness and strength and compassion, because you've done what was right. And when people complain about things, I look at them like, and what have you done about it? Not to be mean, but I've got to put it back in their hands.
To reach Texas senators' offices, call the U.S. Capitol Switchboard at 202-224-3121. For the People's News, this is John Mohler reporting.